ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Friday, the 16th day of March, year of our Lord 2018. Welcome to the John Moore Show. The breaking news on Drudge right now. It looks like United States officials are blaming Russia for attacks on our power grid the last 2 years, which should come as no surprise since we invited Russian and Chinese officials to observe how we test and protect our power grid. I'm shocked. Prepper tip of the day. I want to encourage all you, the gentlemen, if you want to be a hero for the women in your lives, girls that will become women, stock up on feminine hygiene and birth control products. I would say at least a 2-year supply would be a good start. Birth control and feminine hygiene products. Do it now. They're easy to get. You may want to look into buying case lot quantities to save some money. You can do that. I would look at both eBay and Amazon. Sometimes one has a better price than the other. That's your prepper tip of the day. We're going to have open lines this first hour. Tom Berryhill could not be with us this morning. And we'll take your questions, calls, and comments here at Republic Broadcasting at 800-313-9443. I'm reading some articles about what the president of Turkey, Erdogan, is wanting to do. He wants to reestablish the Ottoman Empire, the Muslim Caliphate, with him being in charge of course. That's his goal. And most Americans don't know or don't understand the real history of the Middle East. They think of all these different countries over there: Egypt, Iran, Israel, Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, and so forth. All those little principalities along the Gulf Coast there, United Arab Emirates and so forth, Kuwait. With the exception of Iran, all those countries for 6 centuries were one country. It was called the Ottoman Empire. Within living memory, there's no longer anybody alive that can talk about the Ottoman Empire on a first-person basis. But up until pretty recently, those people were still alive. The people who were young adults, when the Ottoman Empire ended at the end of World War I, being split up by the victors, the British primarily, decided who was going to get what. The French were part of it, of course. Those people were still alive and active up until the 1990s or so. I personally knew many men and women who were young adults during World War I. So it's not that long ago in terms of living memory. It was a matter of pride for Turkey to be the capital, to be the head of the Ottoman Empire, for Istanbul, which was formerly Constantinople, a city of 14 million people, I believe. That's a pretty good-sized city, I'd say. That was the capital of the Ottoman Empire for 6 centuries. And Erdogan fully intends to reestablish the Ottoman Empire, the Muslim Caliphate, with him in charge of it. Now, in his opinion, the Muslims, the combined Muslim peoples, the combined Muslim armies, need to destroy Israel as part of establishing the new caliphate. Just in the last few days, Turkey has invaded Syria, and Syria has retaliated. I haven't looked at the details. Has retaliated against Turkey. Keeping in mind that Turkey is a member of NATO, and these treaties that we sign compel us to defend any country that's attacked. Any NATO country that's attacked by another country, that's not a NATO, obviously. We're compelled by treaties, obligations to defend that country. It's a sticky wicket, as the British would say. It's a sticky wicket. That's if you're going to pick out one of the two places where World War III is very likely to start. Right there in Syria would be one of the two, the other one obviously being the Korean Peninsula. The history there, the ethnic divisions, the religious divisions, the way those people understand their own history is not known to many Americans. It really isn't. Syria, of course, is a client state of Russia. Russia has a warm water, deep water port right there on the coast of Syria. They're not going to give that up. Russia will not give up that deep water warm port. It's something that, in their opinion, is critical for their national defense, their national security, and that's not going to happen. The full strength of Mother Russia will be behind and will support Syria because of that deep water port on the Mediterranean Sea there. One of the big advantages of that port is they don't have to pass through those narrow straits to get out of the Black Sea. That's a very tough place to get through under wartime conditions, to say the least. So it's an area that we need to be paying attention to. I was just thinking recently again, and if you haven't read Albert Pike's letter he wrote, I think it was in the late 1890s, where he prognosticated 3 world wars, none of which have happened yet in that point in time. World War I didn't take place for 20 years after he wrote his letter. But the third and the final World War pits the Christian countries against the Muslim countries. That's what it does. And I think that there's a good possibility that what he wrote way more than a century ago may be close to coming to pass. Unfortunately, we don't need any more war on this planet, but it looks like that's the direction it's headed. So what does that mean for all of you listening to me out there this morning on the 16th day of March 2018? Well, first of all, I would not encourage any young person to join the U.S. military for a number of reasons, geopolitical and health both. One of my regular guests, Sky Huddleston, he recently went into the U.S. Army because he was attracted by the financial benefits. He wanted some capital to go to capitalize his next product that he wants to manufacture. He'd already made a decision to enlist before I had a chance to warn him about all the harmful things that would be done to him health-wise, such as vaccinations that have aluminum and mercury in them. But it was too late. He'd already made the decision and already signed up at that point in time. What's been done to the U.S. military is an absolute travesty. It's by design. The communists managed to infiltrate the positions of power that decide what happens in the U.S. military. And once they got there, they made sure that they would do everything they could to destroy the morale and the effectiveness of the U.S. military in all branches, Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard. And they've been pretty successful, I have to admit. Not completely, but pretty successful. And I'm sure Donald Trump is aware of this. I'm sure he's aware of it. But so I would not encourage any young man to, and obviously not any young woman to join the U.S. military for those reasons. You'll end up fighting somebody else's war. That's what will end up happening. That's what's been going on now for 17 years, hasn't it? Let's see. Saddam Hussein, he was portrayed as this evil dictator in the Middle East. Well, he was not a nice guy. I'm the first guy to admit that. You don't get to be a leader of one of those countries over there by being a nice guy. That doesn't happen. You're not going to be any Jimmy Carters leading any country in the Middle East. That's not going to happen. You have to be tough with no compromise and be prepared to murder if necessary to maintain your position. That's the reality of being a leader in that part of the world, on one hand. On the other, compared to many of the leaders in that part of the world, he was quite moderate and very thoughtful man who put Christians in positions of power and authority. In fact, the man who was the third in command of the whole country was, in fact, a Christian. That's not going to happen in our ally, Israel, I don't believe, anytime soon, is it? Can you imagine the third person in command of Israel being a Christian? Hardly. Hardly. But I used to, for 2 or 3 years, I carried around the Congressional Joint Resolution giving then President Bush authority to invade Iraq. And there's about 18 or 20 whereases, whereas this, whereas that. But when you read these things, at least myself, I could tell what they were clearly most concerned about. That was the make-believe, non-existent fantasy nuclear weapons program that allegedly was being conducted by Saddam Hussein. Make-believe, fantasy, non-existent nuclear weapons program. Did he have weapons of mass destruction? Well, if you count the chemical weapons that are marked made in USA that came from us, well, of course he did, because he was our ally against Iran. Of course he had those. So why do we go to war with Iraq? Because of a fantasy, make-believe, non-existent nuclear weapons program. That's why we went to war with Iraq. Pure and simple. Afghanistan? There was about 2 busloads of Saudi Arabians there, called themselves Al-Qaeda. About 100 men. That's what there was. We went to war with an entire country because of about 100 jihadists from Saudi Arabia, led by a very tall, very sick man named Osama bin Laden, who wasn't even there. He was living in a very nice villa in Pakistan, about 2 football fields away from the main gate of the Pakistani equivalent of West Point. Do you think the Pakistani ISI intelligence service knew about that? Of course they did. Of course they did. Our alleged ally. We got a caller on hold here at Paul in New Jersey. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, John. John, a few days ago on your show, you said you were slated to go to Ukraine to train.
I was right myself.
Soldiers?
I was given the assignment to put together a team to train Ukrainian special forces to be compliant with NATO special forces.
Right, but you said the funding wasn't even coming from the Ukrainian government. It was going to come from an oligarch. Is that so?
That was what we were told, right.
And who was the oligarch?
We were never told. I didn't ask.
Right.
Because these kinds of operations, a lot of things are on need-to-know basis. If you don't need to know, you don't know.
Right, but then who? This was through the American government, the military?
No, the U.S. government was not part of it, not at all, not even a little bit.
And so this becomes confusing because this is on all like outside the government.
That's what I just said, right?
Right. Now, here's the problem I'm having with you, John. I mean, you have no moral qualms about doing that? I mean, basically hiring, like joining a Mercs? Because some of these oligarchs are shady characters, and you're training basically what might be considered other people who would be considered terrorists. I mean, would you take money from a Saudi Arabian to go train ISIS, John? Would you?
Obviously not. Obviously not. If a group of men are going to defend their country against foreign invaders, I'm all for it.
Right, but you understand, like when I called Mr. Nyquist the other day, the Ukrainian government was basically, let's be honest, it was taken over illegally through a coup instigated by a foreign power. That was the United States, Victoria Nuland, and others. All right. B, they had all kinds of politicians like Julia Tymoshenko, who were former government, statesperson, and she was advocating the genocide of ethnic Russians in Ukraine. Also, as if you look at the demographics, most of the eastern provinces of Ukraine are ethnically Russian, and many of them still speak Russian, like Crimea, the Donetsk region, and Lugansk. So, John, I really am questioning your morality in the sense that you would take money to instigate a white-on-white conflict from an unknown oligarch who might be Jewish, and you would have taken the money to instigate a fight between white Gentile Slavs between each other in Ukraine. And really, John, shame on you that you would do this.
Well, you're wrong. Paul, you're wrong. First of all,
well that's the way I see it.
Paul, it's my turn to talk. First of all, our job would be to train soldiers who already were highly trained, Spetsnaz, to be conformed to and understand NATO protocol so they could interact properly and safely with NATO forces to properly and defend their country from foreign invaders. That was the mission. The mission never happened, and I have no qualms at all about teaching people to accomplish this goal to protect their country from foreign invaders. Now, the eastern part of Ukraine had, under Stalin, brought in ethnic Russians to basically colonize another country under Stalin. And you're right. There's a large percentage of ethnic Russians there. They speak Russian, and they've been there for about 80 years, having been brought there probably against their will by Joseph Stalin to colonize a foreign country. Now, Jeff Nyquist also pointed out that, and he didn't make a point of this, but he did another show earlier, Ukraine had nuclear weapons when this all started. When the breakdown of the Soviet Union happened, Ukraine had nuclear weapons. The agreement signed for them to give up the nuclear weapons guaranteed their sovereignty and that they would not be invaded by Russia. And, of course, Russia broke that agreement. We have a break. Everybody hold on. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at theliberty. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 16th of March. Well, a week from today, I'll be headed to Dallas. I will be the keynote speaker at the event in Dallas. And if you want to go there to the Hear the Watchman conference and get a $20 discount on the ticket, just go to my website at thelibertyman.com to get your discount code to be there in person. If you can't be there in person, 20% off the live stream, the same discount code applies. We're talking about the events that have been happening in Ukraine here, and before we get back to Paul, I need to mention that even if the U.S. was behind what happened in Ukraine, overthrowing the Russian who was in charge of the country. I believe we should have been doing that in Hungary in 1956 to support the Hungarian uprising in 1956, which they thought we would, the Hungarian freedom fighters. Czechoslovakia in 1968. The Czechs were hoping that America would come and help them with their attempt to overthrow the Russian occupation of Czechoslovakia. So I have no problems whatsoever helping freedom-loving people overthrow tyranny. I don't at all. And that's what we were doing if this operation had gone forward. If it had got to a place where we had actual funding, we would have notified the U.S. State Department and the Department of Justice of our operation to make sure that everybody was on the same page, and we would have moved forward to train Ukrainian special forces to be compliant with NATO protocols. Do you have any further comments there, Paul?
Well, as we know, for one, Ukraine is actually a very new nation. It only came about in 1914. It was technically always part of Russia. Actually, it goes back for hundreds of years before the even creation of the new state of Ukraine. So let's get that established. It had always had a Russian history, run by Russians, occupied by Russians, etc. And so it really was only until 1914 part of Russia. Let's establish that. Second of all, it is
Paul, it's not established. Ukraine's been invaded multiple times. Ukraine's been invaded by Muslims. Ukraine's been invaded by the Vikings. Ukraine has been invaded and taken over by the Russians. Ethnic Ukrainians don't consider themselves Russian. They don't. Now, my own mother, who's still alive, was an adult when Stalin was murdering tens of thousands of Ukrainians, and so people know what the Russians did to them. People know what communism did to them, and they don't like it. They don't like Russia. They don't like communism, and they want nothing to do with Russians and communists. Go ahead, Paul.
However, if ethnic Russians make up the majority populations of the eastern provinces, and they do. Don't ask. Yes, it's true.
They're invaders. They're invaders.
Well, either way, the fact of the matter is, when those invaders stay there for 80 years, as you've admitted, they basically become the dominant ethnic thing. John, is what you're advocating for the ethnic cleansing of ethnic Russians who live their whole lives in eastern Ukraine? You basically want them driven out, and is that what you were volunteering to do? And by the way, we should also remember, Ukraine is not part of NATO. Right? Let's establish that. So you were, John, you were working to basically expand NATO, or at NATO's presence at least, into Ukraine. And you were volunteering to do that. And by the way, volunteering to work at the pay and being paid by unknown oligarchs. Now, there's an oligarch named Igor Kolomoisky who is Jewish, and you can see typical Jewish group behavior where he's there using his wealth, probably stolen from Ukrainians, and using to instigate Slavic on Slavic fighting. And John, you volunteered to do that, and that's why I'm saying I'm kind of ashamed.
Well, we didn't. Nothing needs to be instigated.
But John, you were just willing to take the money to train and egg on an ethnic Slavic on Slavic fight, John. That's you. You basically wanted to train, and work for possibly a Jewish oligarch, John.
Well,
that's what I'm saying about the shame that you should really be ashamed that.
No relevance to me. What his religion
I mean, John, if they hand you money, what else will you do, John? What else will you do for money? Will you train other whites throughout the world to kill each other for your Jewish masters, John? Is that what you'll do?
I don't have any Jewish masters.
Well, you were ready to go to Ukraine to take money from an unknown oligarch to get white people to fight amongst each other, John. As an American.
Nobody needs to get them to fight each other. That's already happening.
But the point is, you shouldn't egg it on. The Ukrainians should be forced to let.
The point is to have the good guys prevail. That's the point. The good guys fighting for freedom to separate themselves from the boot of communism in their face.
But this isn't communism. Yeah, but communism hasn't been around the past 20 years. The fact of the matter is these are
That's a
ethnic
fantasy.
Russians.
That's a fantasy. International communism has never gone away. Paul, thank you for your call. We got a bottom of the hour break. Be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our energy cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the energy cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. Okay, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 16th of March. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. A new article I wrote earlier this week. We got a little bit of editing to do, a couple of typos, misspelled words, but it's about 99% complete. On the left-hand side of my homepage is titled "The National Gun Control Debate: Chasing Technology, Emotions versus Logic." I think you may find some interesting points there. Most people underage, 50, 55 or so, never saw the TV show titled The Rifleman, starring Chuck Connors. About 150, 160 episodes over a number of seasons. The first 20 seconds of every show was the same during all those shows, where Chuck Connors takes a 1892 Winchester lever-action rifle and shoots that lever-action rifle 12 times in 4 seconds. I'm serious, 12 times in 4 seconds. It could have been 15 times in 5 seconds, but he only shot 12 times in 4 seconds. What's the point, John? Here's the point. The technology for firearms to put a lot of lead downrange really quickly has been around for well more than a century. That's the point. Of course, also on my website, you'll find energy cleaners for sale. I use mine every night. I'm pretty active, working around the ranch there, up and down ladders, down on my knees, doing concrete work, doing electrical work, and carpenter work, riding my 750-pound motorcycle, often on the Kubota tractor. And I go to bed with minor aches and pains, and I wake up pain-free in the morning, and you can also. We focus on pain mitigation. We focus on getting a great night's sleep. Only $285 shipping included, and I do take PayPal, MasterCard, Visa, and get this, I offer a 90-day money-back guarantee, so you're risking nothing when you buy your energy cleaner. I'm picking up a fresh batch of energy cleaners today from Tom Berryhill, so they will be in stock and ready for shipment. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads that go with the energy cleaner. It's a great combination, and I think you'll really like it. That's what most people are doing these days. The toll-free order line to get your energy cleaner and your mattress pads, here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. We have open lines here at Republic Broadcasting. The call number is 800-313-9443. I know Paul's listening, and let's see, he had to run off to an appointment. And there's an important point, not only for Paul, but for every person listening to me. And it doesn't matter where you are. North America, Europe, Australia, New Zealand. I have a lot of listeners in Australia and New Zealand, by the way. You're supposed to believe, and Paul does, and everybody is supposed to believe, that during 1989, 1990, along in there, that communism collapsed. It just collapsed under its own weight. It was so ineffective, ineffectual, burdensome way to try to run a country, or countries plural, that all those East European countries and Soviet Union all collapsed and communism was gone. You're supposed to believe that. You're supposed to believe that all those East European countries, such as East Germany, Hungary, Poland, Czechoslovakia, that young people in their late teens, early 20s, spontaneously came to their nation's capitals, demanded freedom, blue jeans, and rock and roll, and without a shot being fired, with the exception of Romania, Ceausescu didn't get the memorandum. Without a shot being fired, all these countries that had standing armies, secret police, controlled all communications of any consequence, they all collapsed without a shot being fired. That's what you're supposed to believe. That's a fantasy. You want to know reality? You want a dose of reality? Read Anatoly Golitsyn's book, published 5 years before all these things happened by a man who was part of the planning. Golitsyn worked for the KGB. His job was long-range planning, and he left during the Kennedy administration. Sounds like more than half a century ago to me. When he came to the West, he brought with him documentation as to what was being planned. He went to MI5 in England, CIA in this country. He was thoroughly debriefed, and nobody believed this guy. Oh, come on, Anatoly. They're going to stage an event where communism appears to collapse so that they can get us, the West, to disarm? What a fantasy, Anatoly. Well, thank goodness Mr. Golitsyn published his book in 1984, 5 years before all these events took place. And what he wrote in that book is, in fact, what's happened. The East European communist countries appeared to collapse and become democracies. The Soviet Union appeared to collapse and become independent republics, and the country of Russia once again. And their goal of getting the West to disarm was, in fact, achieved. The U.S. military now has the same manpower, maybe slightly less, than we did on December 7th, 1941. A very small military. Granted, we have some wonderful weapons, such as the latest high-performance jet aircraft that you can't fly in the rain. I'm serious. You can't. How humiliating is that? Brand new warships that put out for sea trials that don't work. Women in positions of power and authority over men going into combat, and women themselves going into combat. They can't even throw a hand grenade far enough to keep from hurting themselves. Right. No, it's a fantasy. The belief that communism collapsed, that communism ended around 1989, 1990 is an absolute fantasy that was promulgated, planned decades in advance to get us to disarm. And they've been successful. They have been. They've been quite successful. Now Russia is flexing its muscles, talking about the wonderful weapons that can defeat and overcome anything we have, which may or may not be the case. I don't know. China's doing the same thing. The combined forces of China and Russia is a formidable force. The Chinese manpower and Russian technology, it's a formidable force that, in my belief, could probably defeat our forces, based on what I know. The international communist conspiracy, they know that time is running out for them to do what they want to do. I don't make any predictions about when the violent earth changes will shut them down, but they will. I know it's coming. These governments know it's coming. And my belief is that international communism wants to prevail before they get shut down also, which will inevitably happen with the violent earth changes. The violent earth changes are coming. The third secret of Fatima. When you read the third secret of Fatima, you're reading the consequences of a Planet X flyby. That's what you're reading when you read the third secret of Fatima. I have every reason to believe that President Kennedy was briefed on this when he went to visit the Pope, as this young president as he was at the time. I know the Catholic Church has been preparing for it. I know the major governments have been preparing for it for decades. My presentation in Dallas, from the keynote speaker, I'll be talking about this. That's going to be basically the main context of what I will be talking about. There's a lot on my website to deal with this. On the left-hand side, in red letters, it says abrupt climate change information. To start out with the scariest 22 pages of nonfiction you may ever read in your life, once you understand the following. This paper was written and published in, I believe, 2003, if I'm not mistaken. It's popping up here momentarily. Paid for with your tax dollars, by the way. October 2003, this paper was published, which meant they probably started work on it about a year before. Typically, a paper of this nature takes about a year to put together. The first 3 pages is the executive summary. If you're in a hurry, you should read the first 3 pages, the executive summary. It starts out, at the very beginning, it says in red letters, imagining the unthinkable. And it says the purpose of the report is to imagine the unthinkable. This first sentence goes on to say, to push the boundaries of current research on climate change so we may better understand the potential implications of United States national security. This is not the Al Gore change your light bulb and drive a energy-saving vehicle story. No, this is the real deal. What happens when the Gulf Stream stops? Now, in 2003, the Gulf Stream was still kind of loping along at about half its normal mass and velocity in 2003. 7 years later, it stopped completely in 2010. We got a caller on hold here. We got Ron in Idaho. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning, John. Your last caller, I stand with you, John. That fellow seemed to, like someone that urinated his Cheerios or something. He seemed to have a spirit of contention. And,
you got that, yeah. Well, that was pretty obvious, wasn't it, Ron?
Yes, I'd apologize for a caller like that to call in and talk to you like that. A person of your character.
Well, if you don't have tough skin, you don't want to be in a seat that I'm in. And a lot of times the world presents tough choices, and sometimes it's difficult to tell the good guys from the bad guys. But if you're defending your homeland from communism, if you're defending your country from foreign invaders, historically that makes you the good guy, doesn't it, Ron?
There's 2 forces in this world, the good and the bad, and that caller seemed to be towards the bad side to me. That's my opinion, but I stand behind you, John. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Ron. We appreciate the call. Appreciate it. Don't be a stranger. The call number is 800-313-9443. It was the planning for this operation was an interesting event. The men we were pulling together, all of them veterans, many of them veterans of various branches of the service, Navy, Army Special Forces, Navy SEALs, and others. It would have been a good mission for the right reasons. And it didn't happen. I make no apologies for the attempt to help these people be more secure in their future. None at all. None at all. And given the opportunity, I would probably do it again. I may do some things slightly different. We may have brought the State Department and the Department of Justice in sooner than we would have otherwise if we were going to do it again. I saw no need to bring in the Department of Justice and the Department of Defense in an early pre-planning stage, which is all we were until it became real. It seemed to be pointless. Getting back to this paper, which it's got a real catchy title. You can tell these guys weren't trying to market this. An abrupt climate change scenario and its implications for United States national security. I first became aware of the paper about, I think, the fall of 2004. It had been out about a year when I came across it. I read it at the time and I thought, man, this is some important stuff here. It's pretty scary stuff. I already knew at the time that the Gulf Stream had lost about half of its massive velocity. The scientists were estimating anywhere from 1/3 to half. Not that has any relevance one way or the other, how much mass and velocity were lost. But I kept this paper in the back of my mind, and then fast forward 7 years, the spring of 2010, something else happened. That was a British petroleum oil spill. Now, prior to the British petroleum oil spill, there was something called the Gulf Loop Current. That's warm water circulating counterclockwise in the Gulf of Mexico that came out between Cuba and Florida to join up with the rest of the Gulf Stream. The British petroleum oil spill broke the back of the Gulf Loop Current, causing it to no longer come out between Florida and Cuba and no longer join up with the rest of the Gulf Stream to go up the east coast of the United States, past Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, gets to about Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, which it still does, by the way. Gets to about Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, starts going east by northeast towards the British Isles, which it still does, for a few hundred miles instead of all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. And you can see this for yourself. There's a link on my website to the U.S. Navy map that they publish every 24 hours, a brand new map showing ocean surface temperatures. And you can click on that. When you do click on it, by the way, there'll be a warning pop-up, warning, don't go here, your computer's going to explode. Don't pay attention, your computer's not going to explode. Just go there and look at the map. You know, it's a pretty easy legend, a pretty easy map to understand. The bright yellows and oranges are the warmer colors of the ocean surface temperatures. The blues and purples are the colder temperatures. So you can see that the Gulf Stream coming up the east coast and going east by northeast towards the British Isles, and you can see it doesn't go out there very far before it ends. These ocean currents, this particular one, was so important. Another thing on my website, you'll find the archive of the interview with Dr. Zangari, where he talked about the Gulf Stream stopping only a few weeks before. That was in July 2010. He talked about the Gulf Stream stopping in June of 2010. I think I hear music. I do. We have a break. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday the 16th of March. A lot there at my website. I'm not aware of anybody in the alternative media, and certainly not in the mainstream media, that's reporting on the things I'm reporting on. Our project of locating images of continents with new coastlines, I'm not aware of anybody else doing this. If there is somebody in the alternative media, please let me know. Maybe we can compare some notes. I believe it's pretty important to observe and make note of all these images going back to 1952. 1952. That's the earliest one we've found so far. It's not a movie or a TV show. It's Look magazine. A magazine article about UFOs of all things. It's black and white. It's not particularly crystal clear and sharp, but it's sharp enough that you can tell it's the Navy map, that they superimpose these images of discs supposed to be flying saucers, where flying saucers have been sighted in various parts of the country. And then we've got the first movie that comes up is just 2 years later, the Miami story. What used to be called a B-grade movie about a crime story in Miami in 1954. Let's click on that and see what this thing looks like. I haven't looked at it in a while. Yeah, there it is. It's the Navy map, no doubt whatsoever. You can see beginning at the Canadian border up there, East Coast underwater, all the way down to Florida. Florida's gone, half of Alabama, much of Mississippi, Louisiana is toast. The East Coast of Texas is toast. All the way up into the what we call the boot heel of Missouri, which is flat rice-growing country, not very high above sea level. Then you got the inland sea in California. A lot of damage up farther north in Washington State and Oregon. Baja California, partly underwater. It's the Navy map. It is the Navy map. And what I tell people is, from the moment that doctor held you upside down and smacked your bare bottom, everything you've seen, heard, tasted, or touched is part of your subconscious, including all these images in all these movies and TV shows. NCIS, hugely popular. One of the most popular shows on TV. A Beautiful Mind, Hunger Games, Superman, and many, many others. It's our project. I couldn't do it by myself. You listeners are finding these images. When you find one, get the image to me, the screen capture. You get your choice of any of my 5 DVDs as a thank you. Let's make this calendar year 2018 one where we double, if not more, double the number of images we find on movies, TV shows. Let's not leave out magazines. That one from Look magazine is very important because it goes back so far, and it is clearly the Navy map. Here's our top of the hour break. We hope to be back with Dr. Phil Myers. Stay tuned. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here, our second hour on Friday the 16th of March. Proper tip of the day. Gentlemen, if you want to be a hero for the women in your life, the women on your team, do the following. Stock up on both feminine hygiene products and birth control products. Figure out what you need for a couple of years and then double it. That's the old Green Beret way for figuring out how to blow up bridges. You figure out precisely how much explosives you need to blow up the bridge and then double that amount. Same thing with feminine hygiene and birth control products. Figure out what you need for 2 years for these women in your life and double it. You'll be a hero. And that's your prepper tip of the day. We have a patient waiting in the green room, my friend, Dr. Phil Myers, D.C. Dr. Myers is a chiropractic physician living and working in my hometown, St. Louis, Missouri. He's my personal physician. And if you want to get started with Dr. Myers, he's always got something new that he's working on. Call his office, set up that first private no-charge consultation. His office number is 314-878-6868. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning. How are we doing today?
Well, looking forward to a beautiful late winter, early spring day. How about yourself, sir?
Me too. It was gorgeous yesterday. I got outside and was able to enjoy the sun for a little bit before it went down. This is the part of daylight savings time I do enjoy, is the fact that it stays lighter later. It reminds me always of being a kid, just like the day just kept going on. It was awesome.
Right, absolutely. Well, I get emails and phone calls from people that appreciate the health tip of the week, and everybody is waiting with bated breath to find out what the health tip of the week is, sir.
You guys all might want to stop listening to these health tips of the week after this one, because this is basically a full-fledged challenge for everybody. And before I even get into it, let's even talk about the why. So the basic health tip is, let's eliminate the inflammatory things that are in your life that you don't need to have in your life anymore. And I always tell people that there's two basic ways, and we're going to talk about one of them, and that is what you can put in your mouth. There is so much that you can literally do to completely and almost eradicate 99.999% of the inflammatory things that are happening in your body. So the inflammatory liver, the inflammatory kidney, the inflammatory prostate, the inflammatory uterus and ovaries, the inflammatory thyroid, the inflammatory bowel disease. I mean, all of these inflammatory issues, the inflammation in your joints, the inflammation in your muscles, the inflammation in your skin, 99.999% of all that inflammation can be completely halted by watching what you actually put into your mouth.
Well, that's good news.
So,
it doesn't cost anything to change what you eat.
No, it does not. And honestly, in the long term, it saves you so much. Most of all the supplements, let's go from a supplemental standpoint for a second. Most of all the supplements you're taking are so you've been putting things in your body that are inflammatory, and you get these inflammatory symptoms, lack of brain thinking, you're tired, you're lethargic, you're lost your pep, you're constipated, or you're diarrhea, or you just want to have a better, not so irritable stomach. Whatever it is, you then have been taught, and so did I, that, then take this supplement and help it. Well, basically what they did is they said, hey, we have this pharmaceutical model of, here, you got this symptom, take this pill. So let's now dive that same thinking process into all these different types of supplements. So you end up taking supplement A for this symptom, supplement B for that symptom, but we changed it a little bit of, you're not taking it for this, you're taking it to prevent this, or you're taking it to help this along, or accelerate the healing, or to do a detox. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So when you start literally watching what you put into your mouth and what goes into your body, the whole adage of computer jargon, garbage in, garbage out, it works the same way here with food. And let's not even pretend that anybody is in argument that the food industry has your back, because they don't. Do you believe that the food industry has our back, John?
No, I think they have their own selfish self-interest in mind, which is making the maximum profit.
Oh, and absolutely. And guess who they pay, or who do they sponsor in order for them to do that agenda?
Well, the Food and Drug Administration.
Exactly. Food and Drug Administration, the American Medical Association, the American Diabetes Association, the American Heart Association. So all these associations that all of us doctors are supposed to have been following, and obviously then all of the consumers or the patients of these physicians, of these associations, are all being fed information by those food industries to say, hey, have our food. When we know there's tremendous amount of research, there's more research on this stuff than you can fill rooms with, that literally say that certain foods create diabetes, that certain foods create cardiovascular disease, that certain foods and chemicals create neurological deficit diseases. And we know, again, all the research from whether it be agricultural to in the laboratory or both, no matter where it is, that research is all saying that this stuff is in certain foods. And those foods are being, when they're consumed at the rate that, if they're consumed, period, and then also at the rate that we are consuming these inflammatory, toxic, life-draining substances, the more we engage in that, we are literally amping up our insulin levels like you wouldn't believe. We are literally getting clogged arteries and heart rate variability issues and neurological deficit issues and all those inflammatory organs that I mentioned and all those inflammatory bones, that arthritis, bone inflammation. That's all it means. And there's so much information out there saying that none of this is healthy for us. But then you have all these associations actually promoting that which they're being paid with to say, hey, eat these foods for your diabetes, when we know that the research says completely opposite. So let's not even pretend anymore that we don't know this information as a consumer.
Well, stopping the pretending would be a good thing, Doctor, wouldn't it?
Well, its thing is, like, I guess you can stop it and pretending. Yeah, I completely agree. I'm also thinking that we know this information, but why don't we change? We all know cigarettes is bad for you, but we still smoke anyways. We still know that all these drinking over a certain amount of alcohol or alcohol in general can cause all these problems, and we still do it anyways. There's an aspect of what's in these foods, and I'm not blaming this part on the food industry. It's just a realization, and as we realize, because we have control of ourselves, right? We can choose to do this, that, or the other, or not. I mean, can we agree on that? That all of us can have a choice.
Absolutely.
And all of us can make these amazing choices. Correct?
Well, actually, sometimes the choices are curtailed when it comes to vaccinations. For example, healthcare professionals are given the choice of you get the vaccination or you no longer have employment.
Oh, absolutely. But right now, and I agree with that, but right now we're just talking about food and the food that you can choose to put in your mouth. So let's talk about these things. We all know, for example, the dairy industry. Dairy industry, I mean, don't even get into how the animals are treated, how they're cared for, the amount of bacteria, fungus, and mold that are in these poor animals have been dealt with. Then on top of it, they're being fed GMO corn, sometimes even their own the products of their own other like pigs being fed pigs, and all these different types of corn-based meals. For example, the cows being fed corn. They don't even digest corn properly. But that's what they're being fed, because what's it do? It fattens them up easier. It's basically, they get way more yield per calf than they would feeding it grass, and it's a lot cheaper. But so then that cattle is eating that. Okay, it's creating all this bacteria, this ecosystem inside of it that is totally not its own ecosystem because we're feeding it bad food. Then on top of it, it's got its own hormones. It's a calf. It's a cow. And then some places they even pump them more with hormones. And then they pump them more with antibiotics, messing up that ecosystem even more. And we know that from an ecosystem standpoint, the bacteria cultures that's in our gut feeds our DNA. So the healthier your gut biome is, the healthier your brain biome is. It means just the bacterial cultures that are inside your body feed your brain, feed your gut, feed your DNA, feed your system. So you then eat products of these animals that have been fed this horrific food, have hormones that aren't even ours, and even if it was a perfectly fed animal, still has a biome that's not human and not healthy for the human consumption aspect of it all. So you with me so far on this?
Absolutely, Doctor.
All right. So and I'm not talking about just the calves here. Let's get into the dairy itself. So that dairy is in all of our foods. It's in all of our butters, all of our cheeses, all of our milks, all of our yogurts. So when we eat that, it's immediately inflammatory to the body. Immediately inflammatory, because we're now having to deal with hormones that aren't ours, and we have a difficult time with our own hormones. I mean, right, come on. Right. And on top of it, now you have a biodome that you're consuming that when we do that, it's not even ours as well. So our inflammation, our immune system goes haywire in inflammation. We get more allergies. We get more sinus and congestion infections. All these different types of things happen to our mucal lining of our entire body. And that's just dairy. So now we know dairy. Now we don't even have to talk about wheat. There is more literature, there's more books, there's more stuff on the effects of wheat and what it does for the body that you can fill 500 rooms on the amount of information and how horrific wheat is. But look at all the foods. It's in everything because It's also cheap.
Right.
Now, so those two things we don't even have to really discuss because everybody knows it. It's this one topic that gets everybody. And it's even harder than the decision to say not eat meat, poultry, fish, or any type of other animal product. This part right here is even harder than that. You might as well go curse at a Catholic church during Mass. This is the one that kicks the bucket. So we've all heard of the hydrogenated oils, right?
Right.
The trans fats. Okay. That was like a huge thing back in the early 2000s, especially around 2002 to 2006. That was pretty big. It kind of got overshadowed by the 2008 crash of the real estate industry, but it's a reality that has kind of fallen behind in the shadows. One of the things that happened is, if you all remember, there was a huge thing about trans fats. There was nothing on the nutritional label, which you can't believe anyways. But now they have a thing called trans fats on the nutritional label, which they've gotten all around it, is if you only have a certain percentage of quote-unquote trans fats in the food, you don't have to actually say there's trans fats in it. You can actually say 0, when actually there is. So again, you can't trust the nutritional label at all. So it's worse than the commercial on front of the box, which doesn't tell you anything.
Right.
So back in the day, they at least put the words hydrogenated or trans fats or partially hydrogenated in the ingredients, so at least you knew. Well, now they stopped doing that, and they got around that. And this is what they did. They screwed up the language so bad, they used what we consider health terms to hide their hydrogenated and trans fats into our foods that are worse than all of everything. So what happened is they took our olive oil, they took our coconut oil, they took our avocado oil, they took our sunflower oil, and then they heated it up. They turned it into a partially hydrogenated substance, but it's still coconut oil or olive oil, and then they used it as the preservative, labeled it as only coconut, sunflower, whatever oil, and put it into sunflower oil, put it into the ingredients as, oh, they'll think it's just part of the ingredients. And everybody cooks with oils, and oils are good for you, especially these ones. So what they did is they laced all of our canned, box, packaged, and bagged foods, and specifically your health foods, are loaded with it.
Hold that thought, Doctor. Hold that thought. We got a break. We'll be right back, everybody. Call numbers 800-313-9443. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 16th of March. If you come into Dallas, I will see you there. I'll be the keynote speaker at the Hear the Watchman conference. If you want a $20 discount, just go to my website, libertyman.com, to get the discount code for your $20 discount. If you can't be there in person, there's a 20% discount for the live feed streaming. Visiting this hour, as we do most Fridays, with Dr. Phil Myers. If you want to get started with Dr. Myers, gain access to this expertise. He's my coach, by the way, when I'm training, which I'm training right now, to run the 100-meter dash this coming Memorial Day weekend. Call his office up at first private no-charge consultation at 314-878-6868. Let's continue, Doctor.
So we know that these oils are in all of our foods, in all of our health foods, and they're literally there, square in your face. And as soon as you bypass the front of the box, because that doesn't tell you anything, that's just a commercial. Bypass the nutritional label, again, that's just part of the commercial. That's telling you just like, this drug will kill you if you take it. That's basically what that says. And the ingredients. That is the closest thing you'll ever get to knowing what's actually inside that box. And here's how you read it. When you see the word OIL
right.
in the ingredients,
right.
It is not healthy for you. That OIL is, you just see that oil word and put the words trans fats, inflammatory bowel disease, heart issues, cardiovascular problems, diabetes, neurological degeneration, prostate problems, uterus problems, joint problems, muscle problems, thinking problems, breathing problems, being problems, doing problems, whatever. That oil right there is the most inflammatory thing you can ever put in your body. And then what most people then, for example, let's get out of the health foods. Now let's get into the unhealth foods. So your snack aisles, your bagged aisles, your Doritos aisles, all the companies that own all of the farms and all of the corn and all of the soy and all of that, then they lace corn, soy, all the different derivatives of GMO soy, GMO corn into, they have all these exotic names. They don't even have they're not even names anymore. They're just chemical codes that no one knows what they are, what they actually do, except what they do is they're flavor enhancers. What they are cheap substitutes to make something that has zero nutritional value. I mean, like literally zero. Like the nutritional density of these foods are so low, you better be off eating cardboard.
Well,
what they do is they make the cardboard taste really, really good by manipulating the flavors of these soy and corn and different chemicals.
Well, my wife, Dr. Moore, makes that exact same statement about the cardboard having as much or more nutrition as what's in the package.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it's horrible. So now so now you have all these corn and soy and hydrogenated oils hidden as health oils, and sometimes even in the non-health industry food line, they don't even hide it because they're like, oh, these people aren't even paying attention anyways. I could put Dumbo the bear on the front of this thing and they're going to buy it, which is sad. But our consumer blinders are so into, oh, the meat industry has my back. Oh, the dairy industry has my back. Oh, the corn industry has my back. Oh, the soy industry has my back. They would never put anything out there where that would harm my life, harm my children, harm my grandchildren. They would never, ever, ever think about doing that. Because they're good people. And they support the American Medical Association. They support the Dental Association. And don't you think that they would have my best interest in mind?
Of course. That's what people
No,
think.
I don't think so,
Right.
Tim.
Right. That's what
But that's
people think.
That's the unfortunate mindset sometimes that at least it's been put out on. I mean, how many generations since the 1920s, when did TV come out? When did commercials and radio come out? Basically, when all that stuff in the 1940s, 1950s, that's when it really went berserk. But doctors and physicians of all sorts, of all categories, from DO, DC, MD, naturopath, you name it, way back in the 1895 era, we're talking about gut issues and brain issues. So we know food can affect you.
Absolutely. Doctor, we got a break. Everybody stay tuned. The call number is 800-313-9443.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our energy cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the energy cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 16th day of March. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. Lots of things there, things to educate you, inform you, entertain you, possibly even make you upset. There's a lot there, including, of course, the energy cleaner. No, it's not the silver bullet. I would not begin to say that it is. It is, however, part of an overall healthy lifestyle. That's what the energy cleaner is. We've helped literally thousands of people get their lives back by focusing on pain mitigation, by focusing on getting a great night's sleep. As my wife, Dr. Moore, says, when you sleep is when you heal. I use mine every night. And you can also. Only $285 shipping included to 2 American zip codes. Keep in mind that I offer from me to you personally a 90-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do from me to you personally. The mattress pads that go with it, well, they're all listed there for sale. The twin size, full, queen, king, California king, the handy travel size. Everything's right there at my website at thelibertyman.com. Keep in mind, I do take PayPal, MasterCard, Visa. If you need to send me a check, well, my address is there also at thelibertyman.com. My toll-free order line, 24 hours a day, here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Visiting with Dr. Phil Myers. Way to get started with Dr. Myers. It's simple, real easy. Call his office, set up that first private, no-charge consultation. That telephone number is 800-313, disregard, 800-878. I still got it wrong. It's 314, doctor. 314-878-6868. Now we got it right. Go ahead, doctor.
I know so many numbers go from my head too. I'm like,
a lot of numbers.
I don't know.
A lot of numbers jumping around there. There is. Yep.
No kidding. So now let's talk about the health tip of the week. And here's the thing. This is not daunting. This is so easy. It's KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. But now here you got a lot of support. Go to Facebook. Go to Phi Wholeness. PHIWHOLENESS. Phi Wholeness on Facebook. And Dr. Phil Myers on Facebook. Those are my personal and our business pages on Facebook. There is so much data, so much information, so much support on food, nutrition, diet, exercise, mindfulness, new research, new technologies, everything that you need. And if it's not there and you're wanting it, tell me. I'll find it. We'll post it on there. And to support you on this. So here's the health tip of the week. This is the health tip of if you're really wanting to do this, don't just do this for a week. Do this for a month. Do this for 30 days. And if you're really, really, really wanting to challenge yourself, put it in your mind that you're going to do this for 3 months. Like really push it. Now this is what we're going to do. We're going to go dairy-free. So that means no milk, no cheese, no yogurt, no butter. And that includes ghee. Okay? Step
Really?
one. Step two.
The ghee is included in that. Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Step two is we're going to eliminate the wheat. Now, the wheat's going to be easy to find because you're going to look for the third most important thing, the hidden oils. When you look into your foods, if you go to buy anything canned, boxed, packaged, or bagged, you're going to go right to the ingredient list, and you're going to scan that ingredient. I don't care if it says organic everything. You're going to scan that, and if it says anywhere in the ingredients, the little word, OIL, it is a trans fat hydrogenated substitute preservative that's inflammatory to every single system of your entire body and is basically the main catalyst that's keeping everything and exciting all of the neurodegenerative problems that you have going on in your body. And one of the biggest reasons is it's a fat, and fats take a long time to metabolize. They take a lot of energy to get the energy out of them. And there's a lot of other mechanisms why these do not metabolize very well in our body. Plus, they are hydrogenated, and so they're extremely inflammatory on your entire body. So you're going to look for all your canned, boxed, packaged, and bagged products and see if it has oil in it. If it does, sorry, Charlie, we just can't eat it. Trust me, there's many things out there that I've seen that I'm like, oh, my God, that looks so amazing. I can't wait to have it. And I look at it, and it's like, dang. They destroyed it. And I have to put it down. And I move on. So, and that's what we're going to start having to do. Now, the support mechanism behind that is like, well, what do I eat? Everything else. There's so much food out there. You have to literally look at your food, look at your breakfast, look at your lunch, look at your snacks, look at your dinner so differently. It's going to be a shift. It's going to be a change. But start with something. Start with the dairy. Start with looking at the hidden oils. The wheat disappears when you look at those two things. Because literally, what do you use wheat for? Mainly anything you use butter with. Flour and butter. It's pretty much the mainstay of anything. Anything that tastes good. Oh, my God, does that have butter and sugar in it and flour? Oh, my God, it's amazing.
Right.
They just put a different color, put a little added flavor to it, make it look pretty in a different way. It's the same stuff. It's butter, wheat, and flour, and oil. All the three things that you don't need that are inflammatory to your body. So start having more fruits and vegetables. Eat them up like you wouldn't believe. Have as many fruits, vegetables, and products that you can shake your fist at. Don't even calorie count. Don't even worry about calories right now. Just look at eliminating those three things and eat your heart out on all the things you want. And people always ask me, well, how about nuts? Are nuts on this list? Well, I have to ask you a question. Do nuts have dairy in them? No. Okay, good. So that's off. Do nuts have wheat in them unless they've been coated? So look at the ingredients. Has it been coated with wheat and other stuff? Then no. And then look at the hidden oils. If it's a trail mix, if it's a raisin, if it's a nut, and along with that nut says sunflower oil, cottonseed oil, olive oil, or any type of oil, that is a no-no. That is off the list. But if you then get some nuts that are pure nuts, then yes, you can have nuts. Make sense?
It does, yes.
Now, here's the thing with the nut butters. It is my opinion, this is strictly my opinion on this, that the nut butters that have all the oil on the top is actually, because this is my opinion more from anecdotal evidence here in my clinic when I test for allergens and toxic responses with foods when my clients bring these things in. And every single nut butter that has the oil, had the oil floating on top, came out allergenic and inflammatory to everybody. But the nut butters that were just ground up, like people that go to Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and Fresh Time know about this. So you can grind your nut butter up. But there's never, ever, ever a condensation of high amount of oil on top. There might be a little glaze, but not to the extent. What I think is these manufacturers, as good as their hearts may be in their personal life, put oils on top of these nuts that is part of the inflammatory nature. It has to be, because it's the only reason that these nuts would still be inflammatory when the same nut ground and not with the oil doesn't do this empirically in my practice. Other applied kinesiologists may be experiencing the same thing. That's my experience. So nut butters, pay attention. And you don't need a lot of them either. So you can make some amazing stuff. For example, you can go get some garbanzo beans and get some really good lemon juice and some garlic and a little cayenne and some other spices. Blend that up and make an amazing hummus. You can then use that as your dipping with your vegetables, your carrots, your celeries. And here's the thing. As you start getting off of the dairy, the wheat, and the hidden oils, food tastes amazing. Literally. your whole taste buds start waking up. You're like, oh my God, an apple tastes this good? I mean, I'm serious. And because what happens is with these inflammatory problems, your sense organs, it's a nervous system problem. These neurodegenerative diseases, it's also loss of sight, loss of hearing, loss of taste, loss of touch, loss of knowing where you are in space and time, that whole cerebellum thing we talked about last week with movement and exercise and flexibility. You want your body to start healing. You want your connective tissue to start regenerating. You want to get all your organs amped up and ready to go. As soon as your alarm goes off in the morning and you're ready to go, you want that to start really feeling good. You want those knee cricks, those ankle cricks, those shoulder cricks, those elbow cricks and wrist cricks to start disappearing. Clear up all of this inflammatory food out of your diet. You have 100% control. 100%.
Letting people know that they have control is one thing. Getting them to understand to exercise that is something else, isn't it, Doctor?
You know what? Boredom is self-induced, and so is allowing yourself to stay, I hate to use the big word, victimized, but that's a victim mentality. And you, me, we are way more powerful than that. Allowing yourself to stay in that type of mindset puts all the power onto everybody else except you. It's a hard truth. I'm Italian. Tough love. Suck it up. But it's true. You have all the information. It's all out there. Full disclosure has happened, man. It is out there on every social and books. You go to Barnes and Noble. You look at the books. You look at the book. Everything is going to say dairy, wheat, and they haven't talked about hidden oils yet, but that's why we're talking. But everything out there is that these foods are inflammatory. The corn, the dairy, the wheat, the soy, all of those inflammatory foods, that's all they're doing is they're just creating inflammation. So that is the smartest thing you can do right now. It is the most powerful thing you can do right now. You don't even have to get into the whole thing of, do I eat organic fruits and vegetables or non-organic? You know what? Fruit and veggie wash. It's amazing. It'll wash off a lot of junk, and most of all of everything is soils are pretty depleted anyways, so do your best. Look at your budget. If one day you can buy the organic celery and eat the heck out of that, go for it. If another time you're going to Aldi's and Trader Joe's is owned by Aldi's, it's pretty much the same stuff. Literally, it's the same stuff. I went to Trader Joe's and found a mango, 79 cents mango. And I'm like, oh, cool. So I bought it. And I went to Trader Joe's to go grab a couple things, and mangoes, 75 cents, the exact same ones. It's the same company.
Right.
So your food's your food. Right now, get rid of the inflammatory things of your food. That you have complete control over, and then also what you decide to add. We'll work on the organicness. We'll work on the getting your body to absorb nutrition even more. But guess what? You're already going to do that because you're going to get rid of all the inflammation out of your body. Little inflammation, guess what? Nutritional density goes way up through the sky roof. You start absorbing all this stuff. You can. I've done it. Confessions of a functional medicine doctor here right now. I mean, I've done this. It's like if I can just give them the right supplement, if I can get them the right biochemistry balance, the right neurological balance, the right exercise balance, the right mindfulness balance, okay, we'll start seeing the results happen at this particular speed. Well, guess what? They were not. And it's like, oh, my God, guess what? When I finally woke up, when I finally took into all these considerations, and I started doing it for myself and teaching it to my clientele, guess what? We started all seeing the results that we were looking for really quick.
That's right. That's right. Doctor, we had a caller on hold here. We got Derek in Florida. Good morning, Derek.
Hello.
Go ahead, Derek. You're on the air.
Hey, Derek.
Yes, sir. Dr. Myers, you're talking about oils. Does that include extra virgin coconut oil as well?
Okay, so here's a great question that everybody asks. So, when you're looking at all these canned, packaged, bagged, and boxed foods, they're going to use extra virgin olive oil. But what did we say? If it's in the ingredients, it's a preservative. It's not part of the ingredients in terms of quote-unquote preparation. It's an ingredient as a preservative to preserve the packaging so it lasts longer. I don't care what it's called, extra virgin olive oil. If it's in the ingredients, it's in there. Now, to answer your other question, cooking with it. When you start heating up oils, you start adding more inflammation to your body empirically. Okay? You haven't turned it, quote-unquote, to the trans fats, but olive oil should not be heated really high at all. Coconut oil can be heated a little bit more, but again, when you start heating it past a certain degree, especially with our conventional stoves and ovens and burners, you pretty much take it past its nutritional ability to maintain coherency, and so it becomes more inflammatory the more you cook with these oils. And when you do use oils, you really don't need a lot. The biggest issue that most people have, and so the answer is yes, but also the answer is be smart. Because when you add more oil...
We'll be right back after the break. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday the 17th. I think we're back. Okay, Doctor, we got about 3 minutes here. Go ahead, sir.
All right, so basically that's what, so yes, you can totally have the oil, and it's totally good for you, it's different than what we were talking about. Now, here's a big challenge. I challenge even all of you, if you're going to go dairy, if you're going to go wheat, and if you're going to go the hidden oil route, take it to the next step and just eliminate oils altogether. Like literally. You won't miss it. And there's a lot of people like, oh my God, I can't get rid of it. I can't get rid of it. Well, yeah, you can, but try seeing what your body does without it. You'll be amazed.
Would it be best to just boil your vegetables? That's the best way.
What's that?
Would it be to boil the vegetables or water?
Yeah, honestly, either raw or I like to puree mine and make them into different types of soups and stuff like that. But if you're going to boil them, you blanch them. So you boil the water, and then you throw the vegetables in for about 30 seconds, and then pull them out. It's called blanching. It brings out the nutrition in it, but it doesn't cook it, and it keeps a lot of the nutritional value high in the food. But if you cook stuff too long, you're losing nutritional value. But right now, our main concern is get rid of the inflammation. We'll look at getting higher nutritional densities and all that kind of stuff a little later. But so don't sweat that part right now. Just start getting all the inflammation out of your body. Just like with life, and before you can bring the new stuff in, you got to get the old stuff out. So the old stuff is all the inflammation. We'll bring amazing nutrition in. We'll bring amazing stuff in. Again, follow me on Facebook. Start getting involved in the conversation. Start liking the posts so I know what everybody's listening to. So I'm posting stuff that's relevant to everybody's thought process. But right now, the health tip of the week and the challenge for the month, and 3 if you're into it, is dairy-free, gluten-free, and oil-free. And get rid of the inflammation out of your body. That's going to be the most important thing you can possibly ever do for your health. And literally, you will see it catapult all that. Give it at least 2 weeks before you start really noticing huge results, but you'll start noticing things really quick, especially within the first week. First couple of days, actually, because you'll be like, I want the other stuff, and that's your addiction behavior talking. But you can do it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Hey, John, you there? All right, that's cool. So, okay,
I'm right here.
There you go.
Okay.
Hey, John.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, thank you as always, Doctor, for being my doctor and my coach. And I'll look forward to having you back next week, sir.
You too. Have a good one. Bye.
Okay. That's it for the day. It's it for the week. Get your medical supplies, your energy cleaner, your essential oils. Now, while you can, your firearms ammunition. Never, ever gear up your guns. Please do have a fun, full, productive, safe weekend. And God bless America.